Hello and welcome to Tom and Sukey's shop. Today we're going to be playing let's see what we can do with junky old Allen keys. So I've made a couple of detail carving cutters for this commission we're working on, and we actually are making a video on this commission, but you can see it's not done. When it's done, we'll release it. So we are going to make, in this case, it's a matching left and right hand, or sort of matching, left and right hand cutters for getting into small little places and cleanups. These things, when you can find good ones, are $50, $60 a piece. They're a little better looking than these, but these work just as good, and they're essentially free, just your time and labor. So if you enjoy this content, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any ideas for videos, put them in the comments below, and we sure appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we were recently gifted a big collection of Allen keys from a local office supply place that puts desks together. So I'm picking out a bunch of these. I prefer these ones that don't have much finish on the wrong size. There we go. That gives me 3 of that size, and I've got a smaller one here. Unfortunately, it's got a finish, and I don't see any more of that size, at least not at the top pile. Okay, so yeah, this is what we're starting from, and I picked out some various things that we're going to be using for several projects we'll be filming. So here we go. Okay, this is going to be kind of hard to see in here, but this is one of the tools I've already made, and I'm going to be making, well, several more of these, so they're not all be bent like this. What I'm going to be doing is using the natural bend in the wrench to make the hooked part, and I'll be heating up this long end. That way I'm not affecting the temper of this end, and I'll be inserting it into this end of the handle. This is a piece of ash. I normally use these for making smoking pipes, but these work really good for handles. They're just the right size, and they have a cork. So I'll drill out the cork a little bit and ream it out, and then I heat this end up and push it in here. And after usually a couple applications of heat, it goes right in and sticks. And that way you're not trying to carve and get that hexagonal shape. And these make really good handles. Okay, so let's get to drilling it in. Okay, I'm just going to quickly take a drill bit and just ream out the cork. Doesn't take much. It's really soft. And then I'm going to open that up just a tad more so that the bit will initially, the Allen key will initially fit in there. There we go. Then I'm going to use trusty vice grips to save my fingers from getting burned. Plus, this way I can apply a lot of downward pressure on it once I want to make it stick. Now, okay, I'm just going to start by heating up the handle end of this tool, well, hopefully not getting the rest of it too hot. I'm going to get it red hot. You could maybe sharpen this a little bit, but then you have to stick it further in the handle. When the handle's already got a good pith like this does, you don't have to do it too bad. Let it get kind of red, but not super red, but it doesn't really matter. This end can lose the temper. All right, you ready? All right, I'm going to rinse and repeat this. Usually takes about 3 tries to get it deep enough that it'll grab. You notice that the camera probably can't see it, but it starts building up a bunch of nastiness all over the end of the key here. That'll actually help it stick in the wood better. If you had a bigger torch, this would go a lot faster too. One more time. Ready? I don't want to go any deeper than that, and I'll just let it cool. Hopefully it'll stick. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is just cut the end off this guy. So now it's quite a bit shorter. Then I'm going to just flatten the sides. You see that? Okay. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing to the bottom a little bit. Meanwhile, trying not to get the metal too hot. I got a little warm, but not too bad. Okay, now I'm going to coarsely grind. I don't know if the camera will catch this, but I'll see. I'm just going to coarsely grind it into a kind of a point from the top. All right, that's about all I'm going to do with that heavy-handed beast. And we're just roughing it out to the rough shape so the sander doesn't have to work so fast. And we'll get a better picture inside of what it looks like to post right over there. Okay, now I've got it all roughed in. I think you can kind of see it. And I mean, it's really crude at this point. And I'm going to bring it more to a point right here, and I'll just get it all nice and pretty. And again, we want to aspire to keep it as cool. I got it a little hot, but I don't think I fried it too bad. We'll keep dipping it. And it got loosened up, so you can take and put a little sawdust around that and water and glue, and then smack it home with a hammer, and it'll stick. Usually they stick, but every once in a while you get one that's not cooperative. This is being one of them. So here we go. Okay, I brought it up to a pretty sharp point. I hope we can see that. And I've got a bit of an edge. Now, this is not anywhere near our final edge. We'll do that down in the other shop. Now, the only other thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to round this off so that it's a nice, comfortable surface for the hands. This is pretty rough on you. Okay, now we have what's starting to look like, well, your garden variety imported tool with a funky handle. And we'll get a better picture before we move on to the next step. Okay, now I've done all the rough carving and now I've sanded. And I'm going to just take a file, use a bastard file. I'm using something similar to that. I'm just going to do this to bring my final burr up. Kind of crude, but I'm also flattening the top of this because it always seems to get a little bit rounder than I would like it to be. Well, I've got a real big burr there. I need to just getting that a little bit flatter. That'll make sharpening it through the life of its tool a little easier too. And get a little bit more done here. You want to use a good sharp file for this, or you'll be here all day. Oops. Turn that a little bit. That's pretty good. And I'm just going to take some of the burr off the back. Okay, now I've got that done, and now I'm going to get my sharpening set out, and we'll get to work on this guy. Okay, so now I'm at what would be a coarse stone. This is 100 grit, so it's like holy stone. And I'm just going to put some oil on it and take the first burr off the bottom. That's gone. Now it's all gone to the top. And I'm just going to rinse and repeat here. Oh boy, this paper's on its last legs. I'm being a little too Irish. Not throwing it out often enough. I try to get as much of the burr off during this part of it as possible. Save you time later. Not really doing any more shaping now. I'm just trying to get there's a huge burr from filing. Get rid of that first. There we go. That's enough of that. Now, I'm going to bring my next grade of stone. This is also a simulated stone, but this is probably between 400 and 600 grit. It's quite a jump, but it's all right. I'm going to spend a little bit of time. I'm also trying to get some of the scratch marks off of it now. There were quite a few from the file in particular. And yeah, there we go. We're starting to get some of that burr off, more of that off. You want to make sure that you're getting your cutting edge pretty flat. That's why I spend a lot of time with the file getting it flat. Probably adequate with that. Let's go on up to an Archie here. So this is a soft Arkansas stone, and then I've got a hard one, and then I've got some 3000 grit that I'll hit it with before I put it on the stroke. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with these, just trying to get... Oh yeah, and you call a turkey with that too. It's also getting that point really sharp, which is actually the most important part. Now I'm just going to use my little poor man's slip here just to touch it up just a tiny bit before I go on the stroke. Mainly because this thing gets in the kind of in the tight spaces. The stones don't get in quite as good. Okay, now, since this is the first time I'm going to do it, I'm going to give it a bunch on each side 2 or 3 times before I go to the less coarse. Be careful not to rip your stroke up with this thing, but it happens. This first application of the stroke, after all that, I'm still trying to get rid of. There's a little bit of burr on it. Sometimes easier to do it off the end here. Well, that essentially got rid of it. Now I'm just going to give it a quick going over with the other 2 grits. Might got to alter your angle so your point isn't digging into your leather. Amazing what a difference that makes. Amazing how much sharper that suddenly got. Yeah, taking hair off. It's about as sharp as it's going to get. Okay, now we'll show you the tool in use a little bit, and then we'll be done.